Illinois, the land of Lincoln, has lost population for the last 10 consecutive years. In fact, data shows that every metro area lost population, which means we can't blame Chicago for everything on this list. While many people are flocking in droves to Tennessee, Florida, Texas, and even Idaho, nobody is moving to Illinois. People used to flock to cities like Chicago and Peoria for job opportunities. But the promise of jobs and big city amenities aren't enough to trump the cost of living, high crime, and homeless populations. Rural parts of Illinois don't offer a whole lot more. They have fewer jobs and just as high a tax burden and cost of living. This video will look at some shocking reasons why people won't move to Illinois. And although we could make this entire list about Chicago, we'll look at the state as a whole. Number 10 is infrastructure issues. Aging infrastructure and inadequate public transportation in some regions can deter people from moving to Illinois. From aviation to transit, Illinois' infrastructure report card ranges from a C+ at its highest and a D+ at its lowest. Let's start with aviation, which got the highest score. And that's scary considering only 61% of Illinois runways and 58% of Illinois primary taxiways are in good condition. Bridges get an abysmal C, and while a bridge didn't collapse at the scale as we saw in Maryland, 9% of all the state's bridges are inadequate. You might think it's great that 101 out of Illinois' 102 counties offer transit service. However, this comes in at an embarrassing D+. Unfortunately, the state's transit infrastructure endured many years of inadequate funding and mismanagement. It's estimated that $2 billion is needed to begin to get it up to standard. Number 9 is the education system. There are concerns about the quality and funding of the public education system in some areas, which can be a critical factor for families. Illinois is actually one of the more educated states and has many renowned colleges and universities. But when it comes to public schools, location matters. Most people who relocate to Illinois are likely going for job opportunities in the bigger cities, and this is where the public schools are less than desirable. Enrollment is down, truancy is rampant, and students aren't reading or doing math on grade level. Number 8 is the weather. This should be pretty obvious. Illinois experiences harsh winters with heavy snowfall and extremely cold temperatures, which might not be appealing to those who prefer milder climates. Average lows in winter can hover in the low teens, with the winter highs only tapping out in the 30s. While many kids are in school and look forward to the excitement of snow days, Illinois gets an average of 38 inches of snow a year. And since Illinoisans are so used to the snow, families moving there from down south will be shocked to know that Northerners know how to drive in the snow. Number 7 is that there are economic opportunities elsewhere. This isn't entirely Illinois' fault. It's just not able to compete with other states. While Illinois has strong economic sectors, other states offer more attractive job markets. Many big companies are leaving states like New York, California, and Illinois to more tax-friendly and business-friendly states. Many people are finding better job opportunities in Nashville, Tampa, and Austin, since those cities have a much lower cost of living, lower taxes, lower crime, nicer weather, and better housing costs. Number 6 is the homeless crisis. The homeless crisis in Illinois is a complex issue influenced by a lack of affordable housing, mental health struggles, and political factors. According to annually collected homeless data, more than 10,000 people experience homelessness on any given day across Illinois, and nearly 30,000 people are estimated to touch homeless services over the course of a year. One of the primary drivers of homelessness in Illinois is the lack of affordable housing. Many residents struggle to find housing within their financial means due to rising rents and stagnant wages. Another cause is addiction and mental illness. A significant number of homeless individuals struggle with mental health issues and substance abuse disorders. The lack of accessible and affordable mental health care exacerbates the situation. Additionally, politics have also led to the increase. While many may appreciate the compassion that states like Illinois show towards the unhoused population, the extensive services draw more people, which for families wanting to relocate can be a turnoff. Number 5 goes hand in hand with number 6, and that's the migrant crisis. This definitely affects bigger cities like Chicago more than the state as a whole, but sometimes the reputation of Chicago gives a bad name to Illinois. Chicago is a sanctuary city, meaning that they have a welcoming city ordinance and won't work with the immigration and customs enforcement. This means that city officials and police do not ask about a person's immigration status, and they do not detain individuals solely based on their immigration status or hold them for ICE without a judicial warrant. All of this to be said, border states that have been shouldering the migrant burden for decades have finally decided to let cities like Chicago put their money where their mouth is. Thousands of migrants have been making their way to Illinois, which is stretching city resources, and thus the tax burden of its residents. Number 4 is the fiscal problems. The state has long been plagued by financial issues, including budget deficits and a massive pension liability. Illinois ended the 2023 fiscal year with an estimated $429 billion in pension liabilities, but only $218 billion worth of assets, leaving the state with $211 billion in unfunded state and local pension liabilities. This is not a good outlook for people hoping to build a life and a future in the state. In fact, Illinois public pensions are the worst funded in the U.S., and as if teachers don't already have it bad financially, their pensions are some of the worst in the nation. This fiscal instability can create uncertainty and concern about future tax increases and potential cuts to public services. Speaking of taxes, that brings us to number 3. Illinois has some of the highest taxes in the United States, including high property taxes and state income tax. This financial burden can be a significant deterrent for both individuals and businesses considering relocation to the state. Illinois has some of the highest property taxes in the nation. Homeowners in the state pay a substantial portion of their property value in taxes each year. In terms of sales tax, Illinois has a base sales tax rate of 6.25%, but local governments can add their own sales taxes on top of this. In some areas, the combined sales tax rate can exceed 10%. Illinois has some of the highest gas taxes as well, which directly affects the consumer. Illinois' tax burden is often compared unfavorably with neighboring states, prompting some residents and businesses to relocate to states with lower taxes. Of course, this isn't a selling point for people looking to move. Number 2 is the political climate, and we aren't just talking about it being too liberal or conservative. The local political environment in Illinois is a huge turnoff for many people. The state has a history of political corruption and scandal, which can erode trust in government and create a negative perception. Political corruption in Illinois is a deep-seated issue with a long history, exemplified by numerous high-profile cases involving governors, judges, and other officials. In fact, the state is ranked as the second most corrupt state in the country, with Chicago being the most corrupt city in the country. In 2022, former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan, the nation's longest-serving House Speaker, was indicted on 22 counts, including federal racketeering and bribery charges. After serving as the mayor of Riverdale, Illinois for the last 10 years, Lawrence Jackson was indicted in November on federal perjury and obstruction of justice charges. And number 1 is for sure the crime rate, particularly in cities like Chicago, and yes, we are calling out Chicago here. High crime rates can be a significant concern. Although crime is often concentrated in specific areas, the perception of safety can affect the decision to move to the state. The state as a whole has a crime rate slightly lower than the national average, but many of its towns and cities have crime rates that are astronomically high. Chicago has a violent crime rate and property crime rate well above the national average, as does Peoria, whose violent crime rate is 3 times the national average. Other cities and towns with higher than average crime rates are Granite City, Rockford, Joliet, Decatur, and even the state capital of Springfield.